Hey everybody, I'm Lucas Martell. I'm the creator of Walkabout Mini Golf, and we are standing here in beautiful Lost Atlantis, our newest DLC course. Come on with me, I'll give you a little tour of the place. This course is one that we have been working on for a really long time. We knew that we were going to do it, and then in the very first course design retreat that myself, Henning Kachi, our lead course designer, and Don Carson, our senior art director, we did a design retreat mostly to work on Labyrinth. And towards the end of that retreat, we had figured out most of what we needed to figure out. We had one day left as we were all packing up to leave. It's like, we've been talking about Atlantis. What if we just do a couple of sketches, hop into Gravity Sketch? And it turned out that about 6 hours later, we pretty much had the entire place designed. It was just it just fell out. Everything that we wanted just fell into place. We pretty much did it all in Gravity Sketch as well as on paper with Don doing a lot of drawings. And yeah, just figured out pretty much the layout that you see here. I always love it when those courses just come naturally and it just feels like this is the culmination of the team really gelling together. This is also probably the first course that you really do get to see every single person on the team like really starting to make major contributions and all that. This course is going to be $3.99 instead of $2.99. We're going to do that for courses moving forward. Clearly, you can see that a lot of that extra work is going on screen. Does that mean that we're going to be doing fewer courses or anything? And no, we're still ramping up doing more courses. It's just that now we have a lot more really specialized people doing their absolute best work and just able to basically find a way to get all of this on screen. I also feel a lot more comfortable bragging about this course because I really didn't have much of anything to do with it. Just ideas in the design session. And then, Henning Kachi did a lot of the layout. Don Carson did a lot of the set design. And then on the technical back end as well, this is really showing off both Craig Kohlmeyer, our senior tech artist, doing a lot of awesome work with all the shaders, getting the gorgeous rays of light shooting down, all the caustics that you see dancing across the ground. This is the first time we have ever done anything like this in terms of just life to the course. And we knew that fish were going to be a thing. I don't think that any of us predicted that we would be able to pull off as much as we did. And a lot of that comes down to our tech team. Scott Meyer did a lot of the work on the whole fish behavior, coming up with this whole really cool system that allows us to get this many on screen. Colby Morgan, our tech director, was also really instrumental in that and just generally pushing forward a lot of really awesome under the hood system changes. This is Walkabout Mini Golf version 4.0. So not only is the course just gorgeous, but under the hood, there is a major system upgrade. And that comes with a lot of other things as well, just improved performance. One of the biggest things that people will notice is that we've been able to pretty drastically increase the resolution that you're seeing. And that just came with upgrading every single one of our systems, just optimizing everything even more and just really dialing things in. So that essentially now, it really is a lot crisper in headset. We're able to just push the graphics and visuals. And the great thing is that also applies to all of the previous courses as well. So even when you hop into an older course, you'll really notice a big improvement just in resolution. And specifically, I'm talking about Quest 2 is really the platform that benefited the most from that, which I know is where a lot of our players are. If you've been playing on Steam or Rift, you're already seeing that improved resolution. We've had that enabled since the very beginning. The movement of the fish and all the creatures. Henning Kachi, who I mentioned is our senior course designer, he's also a phenomenal animator. And so he animated all of the larger sea creatures, the whale, the sharks, the sea turtle, the manta rays, as well as there was a lot of work that even though the fish system works so well and lets us get so many fish on screen, there's still a lot of art direction. And he spent weeks actually just dialing in the placement of all those fish so that it can feel as lush and alive as it does, but also keeping the fish in a spot where they don't interfere with gameplay. They don't swim in front of your face. They don't block your view of the hole, but just creating these moments when you come up over a hill and you just get that great view of all the fish perfectly placed. There's a lot of artistic decision that goes into exactly how to orchestrate those moments. So here we're coming up to hole number 5. It's great to see this one from up above because down low, it's a little hard to realize, but you're actually playing on top of this toppled statue of Poseidon, which internally we affectionately renamed as Sea Daddy. Someone named the model just Sea Daddy and it stuck, and now we all refer to him as that. Oh, another really cool thing that I should mention as well is that all of the larger sea creatures are also rideable. So if you either go up in a god boat and teleport down onto them or just fly over to them and fly straight down to land, it gives you a great, nice little guided tour of the level. It turns out that riding on animals in VR can be a little nauseating, especially the sharks. When we first allowed people to ride on it, you were going back and forth just how the shark was moving, and we had to do a couple of extra animation passes just to smooth that out and make it so that on certain sea creatures, you're not necessarily rotating along with them, because that's always the thing that can be a little uncomfortable for people. I always forget to mention the crabs too. Crabs were another great little addition. Adding more life to the course is something that we've always wanted to do. Some just work better than others because it's still a mini golf game. You still want to feel like you're in an environment, and there are some places, like in this case, fish or something, that just work really well for VR, and you can have them swimming around and they just feel they're not distracting at all, or if they are, it's in a very good way. I'd have to actually find out exactly where we ended up on in terms of how many fish are on screen. I think someone said that it's 700 or 1,000. It's somewhere in that range. I am actually unsure of exactly how many we ended up with because we've been dialing it in. And actually, one of the things that we did even recently is we were actually able to get even more on screen, but we found that it was actually becoming a little too dense. Mighty Coconut actually started on an island off the coast of Belize. We were down there doing a short film called The Ocean Maker, and I had essentially bribed a few friends and colleagues to come help me make this short film. There were 8 of us down there for 7 weeks, but that's why the Mighty Coconut name is what it is. But it also means that a lot of us spent a good bit of time in the water on the reef of Belize. So we had a lot of inspiration, especially for a lot of us who had spent so much time on the reef. When the fish were so dense, we're almost like, it's almost too dense. There was just a little bit too much going on. So we actually pulled the number of fish back. We thought that it actually looked better with fewer. But yeah, the system that Scott and Colby came up with to get this mini on screen it's a technical feat. I really think this is going to set a new standard for what's possible to do. So here we're coming up through hole 7. This is our brain coral hole. And it also shows off a bit of the gameplay that we were going with for this. So I've talked about it before. Every single one of our courses, we really try to come up with a shape language and a style of gameplay that is unique to each course and more coherent. And the thing that we really loved about this course was, in this case, it has that sort of texture of brain coral, but a lot of the other holes, you get little dips and little valleys mimicking the surface of the water, of how waves would flow. It's less of a bouncy course. It's a lot more about being able to calculate slopes or being able to roll over multiple slopes. And yeah, it just creates a really unique style of gameplay that we've never done anything quite like that. But I think it's going to be something that a lot of our players really appreciate because it's a stunning course, but it also just plays really well. And in a way, the gameplay is a bit more back to basics, but in a very good way. There's a little bit less gimmick. It's much more skill-based than a couple of other courses that might rely a bit more on luck. And yeah, there's just a lot of different ways to play the holes. There's going to be a lot of people doing some fantastic trick shots. It's a really, really fun course to play. We are just passing the head of Sea Daddy right there. I won't spoil how that particular hole plays, but that is a really fun hole. I also cannot wait for everyone to see night mode. We finally did another thing that has been one of the most asked for things. And we were starting to go a bit more bioluminescent. And then we pushed it and finally realized, no, we just need to go all the way because we had been saving that moment. We finally decided that, nope, Atlantis is the course that we're finally going to do the blacklight version for hard mode that so many people have been asking for. So the hard mode is stunning, completely different, and the first time you land in hard mode, it really is just as big of a wow moment, just the difference between night and day as you get when you first arrive on the easy course and you see all the life happening around you. So here we are coming up over hole number 9. This is another great example of what I was talking about with that wave pattern, and just showing how this course is all about sort of creating some holes that have a lot of different ways to play them, a lot of different spots that you can end up in. I think that as people are playing, it's going to really cause people to get spread out, especially for the people who are playing competitively, because it really does put your skills to the test, and it's possible to do extremely well on this course, as well as really testing your putting skills. Here we're coming up to hole 10, also tapping into, this is probably the most on-the-nose example of what we're doing with that sort of wave shape, actually getting the shark fin representing the obstacle on this course. Another thing that was a big challenge on this course is that it's actually a very small course in terms of the space that you're in. That was a kind of a conscious decision because we really wanted that feeling like you're like wrapping around and losing your place a little bit, although that's one of the reasons that big spire in the middle is there, is that it always gives you a good point of reference so that everything like spirals around this one massive visual element in the middle of the course. But one of the big challenges about that is just the density. So that as you're standing over here, you can really see almost from every point on the course, you can see the entire course at once, which is a big challenge because, yeah, it just means that you aren't able to hide anything. And just from a performance standpoint, especially on standalone headsets, everything has to be optimized. I can't say thank you to our tech team enough for really pushing our engine to the point that we're able to pull this off, because even though we've been wanting to do Atlantis for so long, I am glad that we waited, because I think that if we had done this even 6 months ago, I don't think there's any way that it could have possibly looked this good. So I think that this came along exactly when it needed to. The general idea that we've had with this is the city is sunken. It's been down here for quite a while. There is a mermaid statue, so we are implying that the mermaids have taken over, although you unfortunately do not see any of the mermaids. They're very shy folk, especially around mini golfers, it turns out. We really leaned into this sort of juxtaposition of just the natural, having sea life growing on and around everything. Turns out that's also just a really fun thing to design with, because if this had been purely natural as an underwater course, it would have looked great, but there's something about that juxtaposition of the really clean architectural elements getting taken over and almost eaten by the rock or the coral that's grown up around them that really creates a unique look to the course. We also, for the borders of the holes, you'll notice that pretty much all of them are built out of these rocks. Internally, our story logic for that was that, the mermaids had pretty much taken the bits they could find. They pretty much built all of the course out of the ruins of the things that were around them. So you'll notice a lot of places that the actual borders of the holes have these like partially damaged railings, or that you'll have bits of obstacles that are actually being made out of broken pottery and various different things like that. It's fun to integrate those storytelling beats into the actual obstacles and the things that you encounter during gameplay. This is technically not the first underwater course that we've done, because we did do it underwater with 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. But in terms of talking about courses and design, I can't think of two courses that are any more different. Just even though you are technically underwater, you were in the submarine the whole time, and the ocean really just served as like a little bit of a background element, whereas this is obviously featuring it so prominently. I'm also very curious. There were a few people who suffer from, I hope I pronounced this right, but thalassophobia, which I believe is just the fear of open water. And in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, you really got that a lot with, if you flew outside the sub, you were just staring at the abyss. Whereas this one still feels very cozy, and it still feels grounded in a way. largely just because you are able to see so much stuff around you, and it's so much, yeah, there's just so much life and so much going on. So I'll be very curious to see how a few of the people who suffer from thalassophobia handle this one, because yeah, you can imagine you're underwater, but it also feels just a much, much more comfortable experience. I know with 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, a couple of people flew outside the submarine and down so that they were actually like looking up at the submarine. And even the time that I did it, when you're flying down and looking at the surface descend away from you, it triggers some primal response that is a little bit terrifying. But yeah, I'm really glad that this course, I don't think that anyone's going to have anything at all. It's definitely one of the most peaceful. I think this is everyone on the team's new personal favorite in terms of places that they just want to hang out. I should have mentioned earlier, but even a couple of the little details that you see really go a long ways to making you feel like you're underwater. The bubbles coming out of the hole, those had actually been something that Craig created for the clams on hole number 1. And then we're just like, man, that works so well. Let's just have them coming out of each of the holes. Those little details go a very long ways. Also, one of the elements that a lot of people might not notice, but it really helps a lot. Everywhere you go, there are these very fine grains of sediment or sand, or some people call it fish poop. But it's just all those little bits that are floating around you go a long, long ways to helping give that sense that you're underwater, you're in something. As well as, of course, all of the animals flying around above you. I'm actually really enjoying, because I haven't done the slow, winding tour of this course, or even taken my time. So much of it is always like jumping in and just looking at stuff and making sure it's all working. But yeah, it's really nice to just hang out in. I could definitely like get a typewriter and just spend all day in this place just doing a little bit of work. So here we are coming up to hole 17. This was loosely inspired by a Greek bathhouse. So this one actually was meant to feel like you were in a bathing pool, basically. Except now the whole place is underwater. Zach Alexander, our concept artist, did this. Also want to mention Emma Mercado and Edward McAndrew, who did a lot of the work with the actual modeling and 3D work on this course. They did a fantastic job with everything. So here we're coming up to the very last hole, 18. The other thing that's also a little interesting about this course is I think this might be the very first one that actually wraps around. So as you come up to hole 18, that starts to lead down these steps right here. These steps will actually lead you back to hole number 1. So it is more like a real golf course in that sense. It's like you start and end back towards that clubhouse. And in fact, even when you first load into the course, you're actually starting on the base of these stairs just to give you a little intro space, walking space up to the course. Yeah, all of those little layout designs and just that sense that you get from just like how fully integrated everything is. That's just what we love doing. And I think that a lot of our history is not in games, both helps us think about things differently and just create a couple of these environments that, yeah, are very unlike what you would see in a lot of other games, but still super fun gameplay. And yeah, so once again, I just have to give a shout out to the team, because I really didn't have much of anything to do on the actual execution of this course. Everyone just stepped up to the plate and really just knocked it out of the park. So I hope everybody gets a chance to check it out. Our latest DLC, Atlantis.